Somebody has to eat the rest of my crepe. I nominate Anna, who just went up, who's sitting next to me. So short. We'll just leave it here. So when I was 16, I was lost, and I don't mean that existentially. I mean like physically. I had parents who were divorced who lived in South Jersey, and I affiliated more with my mom's side, and her side of the family lived in Vermont. So Vermont and South Jersey are like Iceland and Russia. Like they're on the same like generally geographic plane, but they're so different, right? So New Jersey, like South Jersey is, and I guess was and is, you know, very sports oriented, and there was a lot of pizza places that I worked at, and I, you know, like wanted to go to shows in Philadelphia, and it's like amazing to adult Lansie that she lives here, because teenage Lansie would have given like anything to live here, because she was like lying, you know, at 16, like trying to get into shows at the First Unitarian Church. So, Sean Agnew, if you're here, busted. I've been there since I was like 14 years old. So, so I would like go to school down in South Jersey, but my grandparents lived in Vermont, which is beautiful and idyllic. And we live in this, you know, small town named Waitsfield. It's at the base of a mountain, and it is everything you could want. It's like, there's no, like, when you go to a farmer's market here, you're like, is that organic? And like, that question doesn't exist in Vermont, because like, why would you not grow something organic? You know, like if you come down here, you're like, you go to a coffee shop and it's just like, do you cold brew? And like there it's like Green Mountain Coffee is their Folgers. It is the most holistic, beautiful place you've ever been. So my grandparents' business was a catering company, and when I started working there when I was 15, so when I was, you know, in high school, I would just kind of spend my summers there, as it was summer camp, and I would be a catering helper, which is like a much worse version of a service industry person. Like at least like when you're at a bar and like you're a bartender, you can have camaraderie with your fellow folk. Like when you're 15 and trying to figure out with like the bride's mom wants to drink and it's gin. It's very difficult to figure out your place in the situation. Luckily, I had a couple of other people who were my age, and one of these friends was Meredith, and one of the other friends was Wendy. And they were both older than me, and so they sort of adopted me. And so during the summers, I would come up and I would see them. It was almost like, again, like a summer camp experience, but only you're like 15, 16, 17, which means you can like sneak into bars and do bad makeup and like try to get into clubs, which you can't do when you're 13, I think. So Meredith one night convinces me, it's July-ish, and she says we should go to Burlington and we should go to the Hedwig and the Angry Inch live cast reading at Higher Ground in Winooski, Vermont, which is outside of Burlington. Like, it's not a city. That's like somebody being like, we should go to the Hedwig and the Angry Inch reading in Balakin Wood. And somebody being like, yes. So I'm like, all right, because I'm the one that has the car, and I'm the one that's like dumb. So we get there, and Meredith is now a very successful costume designer. Back then, she was just somebody who really liked Mac. So we like sit there, and it's like 4:30 in the afternoon, and we're in her apartment, well, her room above her mom's room that was kind of like the attic, but kind of like the ventilator system. So like we're up there, and she's doing her makeup, and she puts on this like fake wig, and she does my eyes, like these big cat eyes, and she puts me in like this is gonna go so over, I'm sorry. She puts me in like stockings and like a little mini skirt, and we decide like we are going and doing this. So we get all dressed up. We look like hookers. I mean, like 16 years old, we just look bad. And we're driving down this hill. So like Meredith's house is here, and we had to go like down this hill and up this hill, which is that happens in Vermont. And so I'm like driving, and we're listening to Franz Ferdinand. That's when Franz Ferdinand was really big. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Raise your hand if you listened to Franz Ferdinand back in the day. Okay, so this side. And we're listening to it, and I'm like rocking. I'm like, find me and follow me. Like, just like, boom. And Meredith and Wendy, from like behind their wigs, are like, watch out, the sheriff will get you. And I'm like, okay, the sheriff. Because I grew up in a place where you actually have a police force. In Vermont, you have one dude. You have one dude, and he's named the sheriff, and he's the worst dude ever. And so we're driving. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna win, but I'm gonna tell you the story. So we're driving. You needed the backstory to get why the front story is good. So we're driving, and like, whoop! Are you kidding me? There's one dude in this town, and he has got me. I was going 40 and a 25. All right. So they pull me over. They pull me over in this place called The Den, which is right in the middle of this town. This town has like 500 people in it. And I pull over, and the guy comes over, and he was like, license and registration. And so, you like, give it over. And he comes over, and he was like, can you step out of the car, please? I'm like, oh, not at The Den. It's like 4:30 in the afternoon. Everybody my grandparents know is at The Den eating like an avocado and BLT sandwich. That shit is happening. And so I get out of the car and, like, again, wig, eyeliner, stilettos. And I get out and I'm sitting there and I look awful and everybody I know is watching me. And the guy's like, do you have anything with your middle name on it? And my name is Jessica Lansing Sylvia, affectionately known as Lansie. My last name is Sylvia, which is a last name. Like, I've gotten it. Like, it's a confusing name, I get it. And so he's like, do you have anything with your middle name? I'm like, no. So, like, it's like Jessica L. Sylvia on my license. Jessica L. Sylvia on my TD Bank card. Act Then Commerce. Jessica L. Sylvia on everything I have. So I finally find, like, a gym membership from this place that I had gone to when I was in high school. And I give it to him. And this guy, so now, like, this, like, whoop, whoop happens behind me, and it's a lady cop, and she's state police. And I'm like, oh, God, I start crying. And the lady cop comes up, and she was like, you're wanted for a felony in 4 states. I'm like, I haven't even been to 4 states. And so now, they have me against the car, and they, like, check it all out. My friends are crying. I am crying. Finally, the lady comes over, and she's quizzing me. Why are you here? I'm like, I work here. They're like, how did you get here? I'm like, my grandparents live here. I finally look at the sheriff in tears. I go, do you know who I am? And I'm like, my grandparents live here. Okay, they lived here for 10 years. I'm sorry you don't know me, but I swear to God I belong here. And he literally takes out a cell phone, calls my grandparents, finds out my middle name is indeed Lansie, and he says, all right, Jessica, you're free to go.